Hey everybody, welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today, I am talking to Amy Porterfield. Amy is an online business and email marketing expert. She's the founder of a multi-million-dollar digital course business. Amy has helped over 40,000 entrepreneurs start their own businesses through her digital courses, and she has inspired millions through her hugely popular podcast, Online Marketing Made Easy, with over 37 million downloads. She has a new book coming out called 2 Weeks Notice, Create a Successful Online Business to Make More Money, Work Where You Want, and Change the World. That will be debuting in February of 2023. Today, we're going to be talking about her actionable tactics to help business leaders and entrepreneurs supercharge their customer-focused content. We are talking about customer-focused communication, customer-focused journeys, and everything marketing, content, and clear customer-focused communication. This is a really special podcast, and I know you will enjoy it. Let's get to it. Amy, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast, all the way from Nashville. How's it going over in Nashville today?
It's going fine, thank you. It's so bizarre when people say I'm from Nashville because I moved here about a year and a half ago, but born and raised in Southern California. So I still feel like maybe I'm visiting, but I'm getting a little bit more centered and focused on I'm here. This is where we're making our life. So it's going well.
Yeah, I am from Orange County too, and during COVID, I moved as well. And I remember when you moved because my husband told me, I think it was a big deal. It's like, oh my God, Amy Porterfield moved to Nashville from San Diego. We moved to LA from San Francisco. So I think a lot of people just are finding themselves in a new place and making a new life. We were chatting before the podcast that it's really exciting to have you here. I think it's so important for my audience that are generally customer service people to know more about marketing. And you have done such a great job of building a career for yourself all around basically communication. And how do you do that? And how do you use technology to do that? So for our audience that might not be as familiar, can you just talk about your start working for another international thought leader for so many years, and then bringing what you learned there to starting a new business to helping business people with marketing?
Yes. So I always say I'm an ex-corporate girl turned accidental entrepreneur. I never really thought I would go out and start my own business. I always thought I'd be climbing that corporate ladder, which I enjoyed and I loved, and it was secure, and I loved the ability to keep getting promotions and raises and all that stuff. Like I would really thrive in that environment. However, here's what happened. For 7 years, I worked for peak performance coach Tony Robbins, and I was the director of content development, and I had an amazing job with him. I got to travel the world, work on content that he did on stage, like Unleash the Power Within and Date with Destiny, his 2 big events. And it was a great time. But there was this one meeting that happened while I was there at the San Diego headquarters where Tony had brought in a bunch of internet marketers who own their own businesses. It happened to be all men. This is very humbling. I was called in to take notes for this meeting, but I'm so glad I was because Tony went around the table and had these guys talk about their businesses, and they talked about what they created. They talked about digital courses they were selling, and they talked about their lifestyle. And all I heard was freedom. They were working when they wanted to work, how they wanted to work, where they wanted to work. And I thought, holy cow, I don't know what they're doing or how they're doing it, but I want a piece of that. So that was like my first big feeling of I want to go out and create something on my own. And so fast forward a year after that fateful meeting, and I did. I went out on my own. I started to do social media for small businesses, and that's where I really got my start in owning my own business. But fast forward 13 years, and now what I'm best known for and have been for years is helping people take their knowledge and their know-how and their skill set and turning that into a profitable digital course that they can launch over and over and over again. And so that's what I do every single day, helping with the creation of the courses and the marketing of the courses. And but it's been a wild ride, to say the least.
Something that you've been able to do that's really, really, really hard, Amy, is create a lot of customers and engage those customers and retain them and continue to sell them products and continue to add value. And our viewers and listeners, that's something that they're trying to do every day. But so many of us are not natural marketers. And when I listen to interviews with you, what is clear is you have made it a business. You have created almost not a supply chain, but it's a very structured how you work. So what is one lesson you could teach customer service professionals or business people that might not be natural marketers, but want to do a better job communicating with customers?
When I was in second grade, my dad would drop me off at school, and right before I would jump out of his big blue truck, I would look back at him and he'd always say, Amy, it's better to listen than to talk. He used to say this all the time because I am a natural talker. And so when he said that at the time, I was like, yeah, Dad, whatever. But now as I own my own business, it has become so very true, especially as I relate and connect with my customers. You have to listen to them. They will tell you exactly what they need, what they want, where they're having challenges, their pain points. They will tell you, even if sometimes you need to read between the lines, it's there. But a lot of times when we're running businesses, when we, have a lot of customers, we tend to think we need to give value and talk and teach and all of that, where it's going out, but nothing's coming in. And I think my secret to success with connecting with my customers at such a deep level is they know I get them. I see them. I hear them. I understand them because I've taken the time to listen to them. And I really do believe that makes a big difference.
So a lot of your content is about marketing. Some of it is about customer experience. I found a podcast you did, Amy, about the customer journey. And that was really exciting for me because that's something that we think about here on the Modern Customer Podcast all the time. And you had advised a 4-part of strategy: phase 1, attraction, then nurture, phase 2, phase 3, promotion, phase 4, onboarding. And you don't need to specifically go over this 4-part strategy, but as far as building customer journeys that make sense, do you have any tips for even how to get started on mapping out a customer journey?
Yes, I'd love to say that when you're mapping out your customer journey, you have it all figured out before you create anything. So you're really clear about what's the first step, where are they right now? It's the first step they need to take, and you create an opportunity around that. Then what would they do after that? Okay, you create that opportunity. It tends not to work that way for most people in business. What typically happens, especially for entrepreneurs, is that we'll put out a product. And this is maybe not the most ideal way, but the most realistic way I've seen it, and this is how I did it. You put out a product and you see how people respond to it. And hopefully it's doing well and people are going through your product, in my case, a digital course, and they're getting results. What happens from that, though, is you start to see either where there are holes or challenges or opportunities. And so, for example, I put out a program many years ago called Webinars That Convert. And Webinars That Convert was all about how to do a stellar high converting webinar. And it sold really, really, really well, like my best selling course to that date. And what happened though is people would go through the course and they'd say, this is great, Amy, but I have nothing to sell. So what am I going to sell on a webinar? Like, oh, okay. So I created another program called Courses That Convert. And it's all about, this is back in the day, all about how to create a digital course. And so people would go through that course though, and they'd say, this is great, Amy, but how do I sell this? And I'm like, oh, you need to buy my other program. And I hated having them, oh, you have to buy this or you have to buy that. So I ended up combining those two to create a program called Digital Course Academy. And now it's how to create and launch a course all in one, which feels more in integrity for what I wanted for my audience. I had to listen and I had to see how they navigated through these programs to understand that. From there, people started to say, this is great, but I don't have an audience. How do I grow an email list? And I thought, oh, that's actually something they need before this. So that became a program I created, but in my customer journey, it's really where I want them to start. So my point of this is when you want to create a customer journey, typically look at what you've already created and then again, listen to where they're struggling or what they want more of or why they think they shouldn't buy. Like people will say, I can't buy Digital Course Academy. I don't have an email list. I'm like, oh, don't worry. I've got that taken care of for you. So it really key is understanding and listening to your audience. They will tell you what they want, but you have to start somewhere. And the mistake I see is a lot of people won't put anything out there because they're like, I don't know where to start. Anything, if you go with your gut, Tony Robbins used to say, make an educated guess as to where you start. And then from there, it will start to come together if you really pay attention.
Yeah, so it's all about listening. You're saying you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You pretty much have everything you need right in front of you. Often it just seems like you're telling people you can't see it. You're not seeing what's so obvious and what's in front of you. But what I hear from everything that you do is that people really need to slow down a bit to understand the value of the tools that they already have, whether it is looking at the customer journey, getting customer feedback, or just even communicating very clearly about value.
I love that you said that. I often tell myself, like, Amy, slow down for a second here. We don't need to go so fast. And so I see it in my own business, but you're right. When you're creating your business, when you're adding offers and new products, slowing down and asking yourself, does this make sense? Does the customer care? That was a big sign that we had in the office at Tony Robbins was, does the customer care? Because a lot of times we make decisions, especially as entrepreneurs, we make decisions thinking we care deeply, whether it be about a font or a color, or we got to drill down even more because this is so important. And then you come up for air and think, well, does the customer really care? Because at the end of the day, they want to know how to get from point A to point B as fast as humanly possible, cutting out as much fluff as you can. And a lot of times, because we're so close to the products and offers, we probably do too much, spend too much time, dig deeper than we need to, where that's not what the customer needs or wants. So slowing down and paying attention, absolutely.
So you are quite the digital influencer. You've created a complete online business. You advise and consult people all over the world on how to create digital products. As a customer, what are some of the things you notice from some of your most beloved brands as far as the digital experience? Like, what are the things that you look for as a customer, while also being aware that you have all this other knowledge of what a good digital experience should look like?
Oh, I love this question. So the first thing, if I'm thinking about brands that I follow and influencers that I love, and especially in the online space, number one, and this I learned the hard way on this one, it's the vulnerability of the brand or the person behind the brand. When I am following a brand that doesn't show the realness of whatever it is that they're promoting, doesn't get vulnerable, doesn't show the mistakes they've made or the challenges they've had, if they don't share that, I'm a little bit resistant or a little bit like my defenses are up, because I know that it's not the whole picture. And we know that social media usually is just someone's highlight reel. I think we've all been guilty of that. And so if I don't see some real vulnerability, some real honesty, if I don't get to experience some of the challenges they've had, then I don't believe the whole story. So that's one thing I'm looking for, that vulnerability and honest insight into behind the scenes almost. So that is important to me. I say I learned that the hard way because I didn't do that for many years in my business. I've always been in corporate, so I always think like I need to look professional, sound professional. No one cares about my husband Hobie or my dog Scout or anything I do on the weekends or the food I eat. They just want online marketing strategies. That's what I thought for many, many years. It is not true. People want to see you as a well-rounded human as well as understand what you have to share. And that made a huge difference when I started to open up. So that's one thing that I absolutely am looking for. But you had a second part of that question, the people I follow, but what was the other part?
Yeah, as a customer, like I'm sure that you are very up on some of the more digitally first technology savvy brands, and I'm sure that you have your favorites. So what are some of the aspects of those digital first customer experiences that you as a customer just really appreciate?
Yes, I think the overall, this could go for traditional marketing or online marketing, but the overall messaging is so important to me. And what I'm seeing, especially in the digital world, is there's so many opportunities to have the conversations in a really casual way. Social media lends itself to being more casual, being more real. So what I'm seeing in the space that's working now more than ever is when it is the it's stripped down to feel very real. The reason why TikTok is taking off like it is because most people are just showing up as they are, doing their thing on TikTok. Usually it's not very professional or perfect lighting or perfect camera angles or anything like that. It's that grittiness that's working so well right now. And I think it's going to bleed into other things we do. And so in my email communication that I do, I try to be as casual and conversational as possible. We have a lot of fun with our marketing. I'm seeing that as a big focus as well. It's less stiff, it's less corporate. And this is a trend we've seen for years, but I think with TikTok especially leading the way right now, we're going to see more and more of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you're talking about vulnerability, about being more casual, more transparent, I'm remembering even just being at LAX the other day, walking through the United terminal, and they had images of employees up on the walls, and they described them not just as like a flight attendant or a captain, but actually who they are outside of work to really humanize them, because I think that they were trying to tell customers, please be empathetic to our employees because they're people just like you.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I also thought, wow, I guess customers are really acting out on airplanes, or else they wouldn't have had to do that. It's kind of sad.
That is true too. Yes.
But as far as vulnerability, transparency, some of the things that you're talking about when it comes to content and communications with customers, I believe that a lot of people listening are probably recoiling a little bit, thinking about letting their employees be more casual, more transparent, because that they have to give up some control to let them be who they are. Have you seen this play out well? Or is there some control over how vulnerable, transparent, and honest employees can be?
Great question. So I absolutely do think you have to have some guidelines around this. And we've seen, examples. I can't even think of one, but I know we've seen many examples where it goes totally the opposite way off the rails. And so I have a philosophy in my business and that I know myself and my employees follow. And that is when we're sharing, when we want to be intentionally vulnerable, which you have to be careful with that too, because now it feels rehearsed and like, I'm going to be vulnerable right now. And that's just kind of cringy in and of itself. But so we try not to go that route. But we have this philosophy that we share our scabs, not our wounds. So this is kind of gross, but it paints the picture. When, let's say you fall and you skin your knee and you have a wound, it's kind of like an oozy wound, kind of gross. Versus if time goes by and you let it heal, now it's going to be a scab. And so the scab looks very different than the oozy, gross wound. And metaphorically, when I share, I'm not sharing the oozy wounds. I'm not sharing when I'm in it, when I'm trying to figure it out, because I have no value really to give at that point and only just to divulge all my personal information. But when I share from a place of the scabs, I've gone through it. I've learned some lessons. There's some things I could share to help other people. That's how we tend to look at our honesty and vulnerability. We wait a little while till we can add extra value to it. And so this has always served us well. So you won't see oversharing in my brand. You won't see people kind of going off the rails in weird ways because we kind of have this guideline that serves us well. So it's one way to look at it. But you are correct in the sense that I do have to give up a little control. And so if I'm inviting my team or my audience to share, so it's funny you should bring this up. We recently did something in one of my private groups where we asked our members to make videos and share on a certain topic. And one woman shared from bed where it looked like she was naked, but her sheets were right here, but she had the camera. And it was very jarring, like, ooh, this is typically not what we do. But we asked people to share and we didn't say don't do it from bed or anything like that. So we have to kind of let go of a little bit of the control if we are inviting different personalities into the mix. Something I'm not good at, but I know I need to do.
Yeah, because if you want to be successful in business, one of the common phrases is you should overmanage the things you care about. But at what point are you over managing everything, including how you deal with customers, how transparent, how vulnerable? If you over manage everything so much, you lose that element of authenticity. It's a fine line to walk.
Absolutely. A very fine line. And I'm not going to say it's easy. So we've had some tricky situations for sure.
Do you do much customer lifetime value, or do you evaluate, it sounds terrible, but like how much your customers are worth? And do you do that type of work internally at your own company?
I believe we should, and we don't do a lot of that. I wouldn't be able to tell you the lifetime value of my customer. I really should know that. I'm well aware of where most people go in my business. Most people that buy a Digital Course Academy have purchased a list building course from me. I know that 30% of those who buy Digital Course Academy move on to my membership afterwards. I know that kind of data, but lifetime value of a customer, I wouldn't be able to. But I think it is important.
So something that you just touched on that you're really good at is creating membership-based products. And this is actually where many companies are trying to move toward in the experience economy, trying to create more of like a membership, like mentally creating that loyalty. Do you have any advice for how you were able to create these membership communities and offerings that our listeners and viewers could learn from?
Yeah, so in my case, my membership is called Momentum, and the only way you get an invite into Momentum is if you go through my signature program, Digital Course Academy. So Digital Course Academy is $2,000, and when people move through that program at the end, I invite them to continue the journey with me, because Digital Course Academy is 10 weeks with me in the group live doing Q&As, but it's lifetime access, so they could take as long as they want to create their course and launch it. But a lot of times when that ends, people say, "Oh my gosh, what's next? Don't leave us. We want to continue this journey." So I created Momentum, which is a $97 membership. But the reason why I said you first have to go through Digital Course Academy is I didn't want to have to continue to reteach, re-explain everything that I've already laid out perfectly in my program. And so now I can refer back to my program because everyone has access to it, but I don't need to reteach it all in order to get people value and results in my membership. So it's called a back-end membership, and that's how it works for me. But memberships are a beautiful thing to add to your business, whether they be front end, where people can get in right away when they get into your world, or back end, which is after a digital course. But what I love is you get to continue the journey with them. You're constantly on this road with them, and it creates amazing loyalty within your community.
Yeah, and what you're talking about is quite a bit of automation that you have mapped out. And I was just thinking as you're talking, your brain, just like all your synapses are always firing. Like it's a lot to map out and remember and strategize. It is a lot. For folks that are listening that are just getting started, is there something that you wish you knew when you started before you had this whole complete world of offerings, advice that you could give our audience that are really just newbies?
Yeah, so if you're just getting started, and you're right, there's so many different things that are happening out there and things that you could do. And especially if someone's just coming into this world and they're thinking maybe they want to create something, whether they're still in a 9-to-5 and they want to have a side hustle or eventually leave a 9-to-5 and start something wherever you're at. One of the things you could think about is, oh my gosh, there's so many things I could do. Group coaching, mastermind, digital course, membership, physical product. Like there's so much you could do. Before you try to figure out like what's my business model, I think it's really important to ask yourself, where do I want to add value? What kind of transformation do I want, and who do I want to serve? Starting with where you can add value and who you want to serve allows you to get really clear. No matter if you put it in a membership or a digital course or whatever, those two right there are so important. And from there, what I would do is I would start to create content. This is something that I remember from the get-go when I was starting 13 years ago. I did not understand the value of this, and I was never consistent with weekly content. I tell my students that weekly content is so important for two reasons. Number one, it helps you to attract a new audience. So let's say you have a podcast, someone stumbles upon your podcast based on a recommendation. You're bringing new people into your world every single day with your weekly original content, whether it be a blog, a podcast, a video show, whatever it might be. But the second thing is it nurtures the audience you already have. The way you keep your customers engaged and you keep them on high alert that eventually you have something new coming out is that you have to nurture, you have to add value to them on a consistent basis. And so there's a reason why every single Thursday, rain or shine, I've got a new podcast coming out. It's not just to attract new people, but it's to value and give value to those that have already in my world. So creating content even before you're ready to sell is essential.
Yeah, and podcasting, people will say, well, there's so many podcasts out there. Why should I start one? I mean, there's such a market, it seems, for podcasting.
Absolutely. So that, it's funny you bring that up because there's another thing I hear all the time, which is like, I want to create a digital course on baking cupcakes, but it's already been done before. Like everything you want to do, from a podcast topic to a digital course topic to everything in between, there are no original ideas. It's been done before. And podcasts years ago, based on today, holy cow, they've exploded in terms of the number of podcasts that are out there. But that doesn't mean that there's not room for you. It's never too late, and there's always room for you if you're willing to show up consistently. Because two things happen. Number one, no one teaches like you do. No one has the experiences, the stories, and the way that you're going to teach it. So you're unique in and of yourself. There's some people that will want to learn from you versus somebody else. But the other thing is that there's so many people out in the world that there's still space for you to make your place there. And imagine if you don't do it, if you feel like your ideas aren't valid enough to put out there, there's somebody else who values their own ideas and they are more than happy to give this an experiment. So, and you're going to look at what they do and think, I could have done it better. It's pretty much human nature that we think that. It is absolutely there's an opportunity right in front of you to get started.
It reminds me of a quote, and I don't know who said it, but the best way to do it is to do it. So just do something.
I love that. It's brilliant. So simple, but so true.
All right. So for the last part of the podcast, I want our audience to get to know you a little bit better. You ready for some rapid fire questions?
I am.
All right, Amy. First one, what did you eat for breakfast?
Ooh, great question. I had Greek yogurt with a little protein powder and some peaches.
All right, perfect. What's your idea of perfect happiness?
Ooh, I have a lake house about hour and a half outside of Nashville. We call it our happy place. And in the morning, sitting on the deck with my husband with a cup of coffee, looking at the lake, absolute bliss.
What is one mental health strategy for managing hard days?
Ooh, I love this question. I start each morning with 10-minute meditation, and it changes everything for me. Deep breathing is involved in this meditation, and I feel as though it helps my mental health immensely.
What is your favorite type of vacation?
I would say a tropical vacation with not a lot of plans. I'm the kind of girl that get me to a beach or to a pool, give me a cocktail in my hand, a good book, and I am in bliss. So something super easy like that, but I love a good tropical vacation.
All right. What is your most embarrassing work moment?
Ooh, most embarrassing work moment.
I actually know one that you shared on a podcast, but I can see if you remember it first.
Okay, so I'm thinking of one. Well, you tell me which one.
Had to do with working for Tony Robbins and sending out an email that canceled something.
Yes, I deleted a webinar the night before it went live. Because I was going to say that one, but I was like, that one wasn't as embarrassing as totally traumatic. But yeah, Tony's like, the webinar just got deleted and all 800 people got an email saying it's canceled. I'm like, what? From one click of a button. So yeah, mortified.
If you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
I think Sarah Blakely of Spanx. I love how she runs her business. I love her scrappiness and her attitude toward business. I'd love to spend some time with her.
I think she's very good friends with Reese Witherspoon, who lives in Nashville, potentially.
I'll give Reese a call. I'm sure Reese is probably my neighbor. I'll find out.
All right. If you had to describe your outlook in one quick motto, what would it be?
My outlook. It would be kind to everybody you meet. You have no idea what they're going through.
Amy, this has been so fun. I hope you'll come back to talk to us again, maybe next year, and tell us how some of your digital courses went this year. And I'm going to commit to taking one so I can learn more about customer-focused
Yes.
content marketing.
Oh my goodness. I love that.
And if our audience want to learn more about you or your courses or your book that's coming out next year, where can they do that?
So, one of the best places is my own podcast, Online Marketing Made Easy. I share all the good stuff, everything you need to know to get started with a business and to grow a business. So, Online Marketing Made Easy.
All right, sounds good. Well, this has been so fun. Everybody, you've been tuning into the Modern Customer Podcast. Until next time.